Presenting Channeling Erik's Hour of Enlightenment.
Hello, everyone. This is Elisa Matthews here, and I've got wonderful Michelle Gray, medium, a channel healer, and of course our boy Erik Matthews. Hi, baby.
He says, "Hi, Mom," and I'll tell you, he loves you too, and he is dressed in a suit coat tonight, and he's sitting in, his coat's a bit big, and he's sitting in like a really big oversized chair. It's like a great big fluffy chair, and it looks like he's a little kid in the chair, like it's too big for him. And he's excited. He says, "I love you, Mom." And he says, "Hi, everybody." He says, "I love you all. I'm so happy that you're here," because we've got a lot of early stuff to talk about tonight.
Yes, and it's about today, 2/22/2022. Right, I said that right. February the 22nd, 2022. Surge of energy, right? So that's really cool. And maybe Erik, you could shed some light on what effect that has on us individually and as a collective.
Our topics to us. And we have a little routine of how we pick topics together, and usually we've got a selection of them. But yesterday we selected the topic, and he put it right in front of me and said, "That's the one." And I knew today was a significant number, and I had known that, and I love numbers, energy, and all of that. So I thought, that'll be really interesting. But it wasn't until today, which I'll get into, but wasn't until today where I started to really see the significance in what he was talking about. And it's so much deeper than I realized, which I thought it was so cool. But he says, first of all, he says, guys, numbers, we know the universe is made up of numbers and sequences, geometric shapes, vibrations. He says it's all language of the universe. And so when we have repeating numbers that occur in our calendar matches up with our moon phases and with planetary shifts. And so what he says, this particular shift, he says, is like a once-in-a-lifetime type of shift. He says it's not only a boost of energy, but it's also a timeline jump. So it's like we're jumping into a whole new energy. And he said that the twos are the master number. So that's like the 11. So he says master numbers, but when we see twos together, what we're looking at is unity. And this is what he was explaining to me this morning. He says, unity, Michelle. He says, unity, that's the year that we're in. He's like, look what's happening in the world. Look what's happening. And he goes, look what just happened. We're having all of these changes, and with the Freedom Convoy and all of the different global things that are going around in the world. And he says it's about unity. Now, if we take the numbers, 22, 2022, and we add them all together, 12, if we add 1 plus 2, we get the number 3. And he says what's significant about that vibrationally is that's like the Holy Trinity. So that's completion. And so he says, really, what this particular number and this particular day is like a pathway, a portal that we're walking through, which is the completion of one cycle and the beginning of another cycle. He says twos means pairs. So pairs means partners. It doesn't have to be romantic partners of any type. Relationships, family, work, friends, you're with your higher self, with spirit, your partnership in your job, your business. It doesn't matter what it is. It's about duality, because he says we're naturally here. So even though we understand that we are all as one, we are all one, we are all connected, but when we come here on Earth, we're having the experience of like our own individual perspective, but he says we're co-creators. We're all co-creators. And so he says, new timeline that we've moved into, there is a boost of energy for us taking the act of the co-creator. So he says that this means collectively it's working together, as well as in our own individual lives. It's what we're working with, the relationships, the partnerships that we have that are ready for elevation. Something that he said to me, what I thought was so interesting, and I always say this every week, because he always uses me as an example. But oh, that's right too. He's also just adding too, before I say this, that there's a blending of female energy too. So that's another big, so another polarity, another duality. It's a female male energy, and we started doing that. He says about 6 months ago was a real increase of that. And so he says we're really going to see that ramp up. So we're seeing the masculine energy starting to become more vulnerable. And so it's starting to work more with the female energy. So rather than them opposing each other, he says we're going to start to see those energies blend. We're going to start to see them complement each other. So you can look and use this as an example when you're observing things in life, in relationships, where you see that masculine energy, where you feel it, where you notice it, whether it's in you or in someone else. Look at those two energies and watch how they start to work together differently now.
Yeah.
And if you yourself recognize that energy within yourself or in anything that you're doing, how are you using with that energy? It's another little bit he wanted to say. But so what he said to me this morning is he said, so this is my time in the shower. This is when Erik gives me most of my downloads.
I know, I love it. That's the shower, for sure. That's what
time.
That's
I'm alone. I'm clear. That's the best. So what he said to me when he started talking about this, and I'll explain real briefly. We had this kind of weird morning in our family, and my husband and one of my teenage daughters were a little bit argumentative with each other this morning. So my question to Erik when I was in the shower was just asking for some advice, some parenting advice, and just kind of about, how we can help this. And he started talking about the masculine and feminine energy. So this is where some of this started to come up. And he talked to me about how that is kind of going at each other. And then he reminded me about the day it was today and about the numbers and the significance. Then he shows me that he says, everybody is being offered a reset. And I'm like, well, what does that mean exactly? And he says, think about your relationships with spirit, your job, anything that you're doing. We have cycles. Everything in our life is cycles within cycles within cycles. Well, there's a great big cycle that's ending right now. And he says we all have a choice whether we want to renew that cycle. Do we want to that job? Do we want to stay with that relationship? Do we want to, what are we doing? Because sometimes a cycle means that, and it's not always a negative thing. Sometimes a cycle means that you're just done with something. You've done all that you can do, and you start to go in different directions.
Right.
And so he says to me that a little piece that had not been shared with the spirit is, he says, you and your husband have a karmic relationship, and the two of you came together 22 years ago this spring. I'm like, oh my God, that's right. We met 22 years ago. And he says to renew your cycle, because there's nothing karmically. And he kind of went over a lot of the experiences, and we've had some pretty heavy duty ones over the last 22 years. And he says, look at what you've learned. Look at how you've grown. Now, would you like to level up? Would you grow? Would you like to take on more? And he said it in such a way that it doesn't mean that saying no would be like, okay, now you're not going to be together. It's not like that. It's like, do you want to write a new life contract? Would you like to write a new life contract and now start to expand if that life has ended and you've now renewed a whole brand new life, but you didn't die and you didn't go through that life review, but this is kind of your life review. Absolutely profound how he said it to me. So for me, he gave me the idea that I could write with my husband a new life contract, just like we were in spirit. and write a life
cool.
contract. It is, isn't it? And to put in that contract that we would like to experience. And he gave me some bits and pieces of some things that would be more probable for us that we would be able to experience. And so that's what we're doing, so that we've already written the contract and we'll be doing a meditation and signing it tonight. But he says that's something that we can all do because this is a reset. And he says, think about what are we hearing in the collective right now? We're hearing the Great Reset, the Great Reset.
Yeah.
He
Good.
says, this number is the Great Reset. He says, you've got a button that you're pressing. So what would you like to do? What are you ready to let go
fresh
of?
start.
He says,
reset your life.
It is.
This opportunity,
start,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And he says that, this is really like saying, are you saying yes to then step up to something greater in your life? And he also said, cycles. He says cycles are like, they're more like the influence, but the power is actually from the choices and decisions that we make. So when you just say, yes, I'm going to press this reset button, you don't really have to understand, well, what would I write in a contract or what would I know? He says just put in what you want to experience.
Yeah.
Write your life as a, put it in there, because he says, here's the thing, guys. The reset button that's being pressed this day, this energy, power that we all have, and he says, you're listening to this show, doesn't matter when you're listening to it, you're being offered this reset button. You have advantage of all of this energy. Consciously, you have advantage, and that's a wonderful thing. And he says, and what this is like is it's like saying, hey, guys, here's this magical elevator. Come on this elevator, step on. He says, if you step on it, now making a choice means that you're pressing a button and you're directing to what floor you're going to go. If you don't make choices and just kind of stand back, you're letting other people press the buttons. And you're going to go up and down to different floors, and sometimes you're going to repeat floors. He goes, which would you like? They're both experiences. Nothing wrong with that.
Ladies lingerie, floor 4. Okay, yeah. But you know what? Can you give us, Erik, some examples of resets, knowing that there are people that you are directing this to, listening right now? Like maybe one, like I would like a life full of opportunity. I mean, I don't know. What can you tell me some resets that people who are listening might need to consider making?
He says, okay. He says, get out of your comfort zone.
That's a big one.
There's something, he goes, there's some of you that are thinking about something right now and thinking about things that you'd like to do. Is it that class that you want to take? Is it that person that you'd like to meet? Is that somebody you'd like to have a coffee with? He's like, get out of that comfort zone and push yourself forward, because when you do that, it feels right. He goes, not all things that feel right are going to be completely comfortable, but it's through that uncomfortable space that really starts to bring that in, where we start to make change. So he's like, that's the biggie. He goes, get out of your comfort zone. He said, do something that is not in your routine. Shake your routine up.
You're afraid, just remember, just tell yourself, okay? If you want to find courage, just tell yourself, I'm an eternal being. What's the worst that can happen, okay? Just remember that. That kind of helps. It sort of creates this new perspective on, you know what, I can never die, so, I'm going to speak in public. I've always wanted to, but I'm so scared, but nobody's going to kill me. And if they do, guess what? I'll come back around and get you.
And you'll, when you make a choice that's out of your out of the comfort zone, or it's out of your routine, he says you start to shake the energy up, and then you get new probabilities.
That's
new
true.
opportunities. He says, but when you're going on the same routine, he goes, you might think that you're doing the same thing, but the energy's still moving ahead, but it's you that's continuing to go into that cycle. And that's when we start to feel stuck. So he says, if you don't know anything else to do right now, and you can't think, well, I don't know what I'd write in a contract, and I don't know what I'd do, he goes, just think, drive a different way home. He says, take a different route. Stop somewhere else different for coffee. Don't go to the same spot that you always go to. Sit down with somebody else at lunch. Instead of calling so-and-so that you call every morning, call somebody. He says start to change it up. There's these little things that you can do each day that you can change things up, because then you'll start to see things with fresh eyes. You'll start to hear things with fresh eyes. And that's when the energy can come and move itself in to give you different opportunities. That's how you allow it. So he says the other thing you can do, too, is he says, think of yourself as being solution-based.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Oh, I lost her. Oh, my gosh. Oh. I lost Michelle. Uh-oh. But, yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. Take some, step sideways instead of forward sometimes, Okay, she's going to get on pretty soon. It's like I'm the least important person here, so I don't have anything intelligent to say. But I will say that the Atlantic Scalar has been down because the guy came to fix the AT&T guy came to fix my home network, and he saw a cable and said, I don't know what this is, so I think I'm going to cut that. So she's going to get on in a minute. And so he cut my business line to Lucas's server. Can you believe that? Oh, here she is. I needed to get that off my chest. All right, here you go.
I don't know what happened there. Sorry, guys. Sure. Okay.
This is sort of life.
That's life. That's life. That's live. So, okay, Eric, where were we? Yes. He says, he says, think about what you can do in your life to be in the solution. He says, we often spend time where we're in the problem, where we're thinking about the problem. He says, how can you collaborate not only with yourself, but with others to be solution orientated? He says, start to flip things. He also says, the other thing is too about collaboration, is he says, where can you collaborate with others? Because he keeps going back to the two and saying, this is about co-creating. Find people that are like-minded. Reach out. Collaborate. He says, we are meant to be able to join our energies together. We are so much better together than we are alone. So he says, and that takes trust, because there's those of you listening right now that feel that you don't have those that are with you that you can connect to, where they are. But he says there's a sense of trust in this time right now, because we're telling you that there are people out there that will be amazing for you, that'll be there on your vibe. So it's part of your job to create that intent and that trust within you, that if they're not here in that moment, they will be. And so start to think in that way. Start to think in a way of reaching out and collaborating with others. Get yourself open, because he said the whole part of being open is starting to look for others, is starting to be available to others. And that also goes along with changing your routines and your things. Some other things, too, he says that is really great at a time like this is, he says, doing any exercises that are cleansing, like meditation, any kind of ritual, a salt bath, he says.
Oh, yeah.
Different cleansing activities. He says those are great ways that we can do a reset for ourselves, at any time, really.
Yeah, reset your energetic body,
remember,
right? It's like it helps you to reset your energetic body.
Yes. And he goes, don't forget that every night when we go to sleep, well, really every time we go to sleep, because when we go to sleep at night, we're hitting a reset button. And he says, if you ever term of never go to bed angry, never go to bed angry, finish the solutions, kind of smooth things over before you go to sleep. He goes, well, where that really comes from is because if we carry on the energy from the day before, we're really putting yesterday's energy into today. So we're fading it into today, when really each day is a brand new, fresh energy. It is a new timeline. It's a new availability. You may think it's all linked together, but it's not. And so he says, remember that. You wake up every day, reset.
A lot of successful couples that have been married for decades and decades and decades say that's one of the biggest things. Never go to bed angry. So there's two.
That's right.
Number two, it's about coupling, not just, romantic coupling, but friends, colleagues, possible coworkers. Is that what you're saying? Reach out to somebody and create this one-on-one, 1 + 1 = 2 relationship. Is that what you're saying, Erik?
Yes. Yes, and Erik says, and let's not forget, he says, your relationship with your higher self, with spirit. He says, are you growing that relationship? Would you like to take that to the next level?
How do you do that?
Well, he says that's starting to, first of all, says, actually say out loud, say with that intention, yes, I choose to take on this new responsibility in my life. I want to work with you. I want to grow with you. He goes, it's setting those intentions. And he says, and hear me out, because he says some people are sitting waiting for their help to come to them, or they're waiting for their angels to come to them, and they're studying and picking up all this information. He said, and that's all great. But he says it comes a time when it's a relationship. And he goes, and remember, he goes, it truly is a relationship, and you're building a friendship, and friendships are not one-sided. So he says, you reach out and create that relationship. He says, talk to us. And he goes, I know, I hear it all the time, but I feel like I'm talking to myself. I feel like I'm making it up. I don't know if you're actually hearing me or you're actually talking to me back. But he goes, this is where the trust comes in. He says, are you ready to put a commitment in? Are you ready to put that in and talk? Can you spend that 10 minutes every day with that intention of sitting down, knowing that I'm sitting down in front of you and we're having a conversation? He says, I promise you, if you put that trust and that commitment into it every day, and it's from your heart, it will grow. It will grow because it's meant to. This is the way we're built.
Can you ask for your guides to nudge you in the right directions for these opportunities?
Always.
Hey, give me clear signs, etc. It's like make it stronger.
Always. He says, now be sure that when you're asking, and it's okay to say, give me a stronger sign, or can you show that to me again? But he says, start to remember, though, he goes, don't be too specific on how you need to hear it. Because he says, it's okay. He says, sometimes someone will say, show me a butterfly. Now, show me a butterfly, as long as you're open to understanding that butterfly can come in many different ways. That butterfly might show up on an envelope in a picture. That butterfly might be one that you see fly across the television, be one that you see outside. But he says, keep yourself open. But the biggest part, he says, when you start to put expectations on them, and then the more you box that expectation in, the harder it is for us to work around that. So he says, you want to keep that energy nice and open and say, show me a sign that I won't miss. Show me a sign that I'll know this is true.
Well, also I'm talking about nudging a person in the direction of a new friendship, a new friend. How would that look? What would spirit guides do to help, or guardian angels do to help that happen? Is that in the way of signs, or is it like throwing you in the path of that person, or what?
He says it can be. It depends on the individual. So, for example, he says if you're going somewhere, or let's say you're staying inside your house all the time, you're not going anywhere, and he says, and for you, the way of meeting people could be to, let's say there's something that's popping up and it says meeting somebody like-minded. There's some ad that keeps popping up. Popping up. He goes, being nudged to that, because we know that's the best way that you're going to meet this person. He says it's all circumstance on who you are and what your circumstance is, and it's remaining open, but look for repeating signs. He says look for repeating numbers. He says we're always listening and we always answer. When you ask for something, there is never a time that you will not given an answer. You will always be given an answer. But he says how that answer comes and exactly when that answer comes is not a for sure thing, meaning that you may not get it immediately, but you're going to get it. And it's always going to be timely, meaning that it'll make sense when it happens.
Yeah. That's great. That is really great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we forget to tap into so many resources from the divine, and it's really important to. Some people say, they're not going to listen to me, but no, they do. And you can always call up on Erik. He loves to hang out with you guys and give you some guidance and such. So yeah, anything else you want to talk about before we take callers, Erik?
No, he's just saying to me when you just said that he was kind of laughing because he's been. A lot of people telling me some stories about some interesting things that he's been doing and showing up with other people's loved ones and directing them to communicate. So it's been pretty cool. But he says, no, he goes, that's it. He says he knows that there's some people on that want to talk and he's ready to talk and ready to help. So he just says, everybody does take advantage of this energy. And if you're listening to this show now and it's already past this energy, he goes, keep in mind that you can jump on this bandwagon just by putting it in your intention. Just by,
there we go.
I want to connect to this energy. So he says, you're listening to it, you're part of it.
Wow. Okay, this looks like an international caller, so I would like to take this person first. 6142 is the first four numbers. Hi there, how you doing?
Hi, it's Amanda from Victoria in Australia.
Oh, hi, Amanda. How you doing?
Good. I called a while ago and I got fantastic advice from Erik. It was really, really great. But putting it into practice sometimes takes practice and awareness.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And I was under a lot of pressure and still sometimes reacting instead of choosing how I wanted to be. What happened is I did say something that hurt my boyfriend, and he's going through a really hard time at the moment and going through all the layers of trapped emotions. But he ended up leaving and saying that he couldn't do it anymore. It's too hard. We're too different. So yeah, I just wanted to know, and I've realised since he's left, I've realised a lot of things as well. I think it's helped me really kind of go over everything from the past and realise. But yeah, he's been shutting me out for quite a while. And yeah, I just wanted to know whether I'll get another chance.
With him or with somebody else?
Well, with him, yeah. Whether I'll get another chance with him, or whether he's right and we're too different, and whether we're both better to move on. Yeah, it was really wonderful in the beginning, but he's sort of each time he's got ADHD, so they have hypersensitivity. So I didn't sort of realise how much every little tiny thing sort of added up and was hurting him and made him close down more and more. And I was really confused as to why he was closing down. And then, he was sort of reacting with anger and resentment and blame. But these are all, I've since learned a lot more about ADHD, and they're all absolutely typical behaviours, everything he's been going through, but it's not always been easy for me to deal with. And he had the healing. It's been nearly 3 months now, but he's got a lot of, I'm imagining he does have a lot of trapped emotions and still going through all of that. So I just wonder whether we get another chance or whether we're best to let things go.
Is there a spiritual contract that this couple went through, and then now it's complete, the lessons learned, and the relationship is over because of that, or is there something else?
Amanda, I'm listening. Erik's been talking the entire time here and giving me some bits and pieces. So he's quite ready to talk to you about it. And first of all, he just says what we were talking about tonight, and he talked about the reset. And he said, so yes, there is some karmic energy that the two of you have worked out together, but you're also at a point where there is a reset button. So when it comes to the two of you coming back together, yes, there's a very good possibility that will happen. So he says, first of all, look at yourself and have forgiveness for yourself, because he says that you're holding a lot on you because it hurts. It's hard, but he says you're punishing yourself also.
No.
And so he says, have some forgiveness on yourself. Now, he says, he's talking about getting counseling. So is he in any counseling at all?
No. I think he would be very resistant to that.
Okay. Because he says that may be something that changes going forward. What he says right now is that he's standing back because of pride. Like he's hurt. He's hurt and he's holding back. And he says, allow him to have that. It's okay. Allow him to have that. Just take this time, like you said. He says, focus on yourself. He goes, but persevere, because you know what's in your heart. You know what you feel in your heart. And Erik says relationships aren't about perfection. They're not about having this specific ideal. He goes, this is the real and learning and loving experience of relationships. And they don't always go through these stages of sunshine and lollipops the whole time. And it's okay. It's okay. But he says this is a time to really say, okay, I can see, because he says without this experience, you wouldn't have seen what it is that you have realized in this little period of time.
Oh, wow.
He says there's a lot that you've been able to see. So he says, look at this as the advantage of, I've been able to come to these conclusions because of this. He says we're trained in the way our brains work that when we have an argument or when we have a disagreement or somebody away, because it hurts, we tend to say this is bad, means the end, that it's done. And he says that's not true. He says look at it the other way and say, without this circumstance, I couldn't have seen these things. And he says allow this energy to go through, but he says take this chance today, take opportunity energetically, press a reset button for yourself and make it known to the universe what it is that you want. Be clear what it is that you want.
Let me ask you this. Would it help to change the dialogue between these couple and saying, for her, Amanda, to say to him, you know, I really value this relationship because here's what I learned from it. You know, we've been through hard, but the hard times, they're actually good for me because I see that it's helped me grow in this way and that way and that way. Or would that just make things worse?
No. What Erik is saying is that there's a certain amount of heaviness, and I don't know what that means, Amanda. As he said, there's been a lightness that hasn't been around, and so that's what's been building up with him is like a heaviness. And so it's I don't know what he's blaming himself for, but he's also holding on to some blame himself as well. Erik just said that be honest with him, be honest, and he says, and be put yourself on his shoes as well and be clear. But he says there is a heavier energy on the two of you coming back around together than there is on the two of you coming apart. So he says, don't give up. Don't give up.
What?
Good.
Yeah. Oh, so, but you mean so a heavier energy? You mean it's like better before. If we part, or is that what you mean?
No. When the two of you were together, there was like a heaviness that was building up with him. Erik says that he thrives better in the lighter energy. He's feeling that. I don't know if that's part of his guilt because he does take some responsibility. He wants to be with you, but there's like a sense of pride. So it's like I've said certain things and it's hard for me to go back on it. And Erik says that's just like that's part of the ego. Right?
Well, maybe she should have a longer session with Michelle and maybe even remote healing for him. Anyway, well, thank you for calling in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
yeah,
Amanda.
yeah.
Good luck. Keep going. Persevere.
Yeah. She's awesome. She really is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see who is next. Somebody from Z. Where am I? Oh, 647 area code. Hi there. How
Hello.
you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Hi.
This is Sandy. Can you hear me?
Sandy, how you doing,
Hi.
girl?
I'm good, I think. Hi, Erik. Hi, Adrian. Hi, loved ones.
Hi.
Okay. I love you all.
No,
You know,
love you.
I almost have tears in my eyes. Okay, I'm lying. I do. Erik, I've been trying to get a hold of you. I'm going to try the shower. Okay. Okay. I don't know where to start. Basically, I did the beginning portal work. What I was told to do, kind of like the general one, and I guess I just have a couple questions, little ones, but this one's major. I don't know what I did wrong. I followed what I did, what I was told to do with the smudging and the mantra, and I know it's me. I don't know where I did, so I'm asking: is there like a direction? Is it? You know, I don't know where to move from here with. Is there a suggestion of another portal, like another energy work? Like,
Wait,
I just
Sandy,
feel
I
mentally.
can't remember. Sandy, I can't remember, but did you have it before or after we added those 7 extra things?
I think before.
Yeah.
Okay, because in mid-October. Oh, okay. Well, in mid-October we added a lot of stuff because we added the Elohim to the divine team. So not only do you get all the other stuff, plus a lot more, you know, like revoking curses and vows and stuff, but we also added releasing trapped emotions, which is huge, and that takes we do it slowly. The Elohim does it slowly over 5 to 6 weeks, so you don't get overwhelmed emotionally. And clearing out old karma, cutting ancestral DNA, that's a big one. Retrieving lost soul fragments and reattaching them. Balancing masculine and feminine energy. Grounding, and also anchoring the higher self into the energetic body. Those 7 things have made a freaking huge difference in people. So, I mean, we can ask Erik, but you should do the ERPE tune-up, which is much cheaper. It's like half the price, and it's so powerful. Plus, we do everything all over again anyway for the whole household. So, but I don't know, Erik, would that help or not?
I did not give you an address. I think that was something that I had seen, like a physical address.
Oh, yeah, we need that, yeah.
Okay, what Erik is saying, Erik is just saying that, first of all, are you in your house by yourself, or is there somebody else there?
It's me and my dog.
Just you? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's just saying like a clearing of energy. Now, this is something you can also do too. You can use Palo Santo, you can clear the energy, but he says to do a clearing on you. Yes, it would help. What Elise is saying, he says, my mom is right because you do need to have it redone, have it done again. Okay. He says what's going on, actual heart. He says there's emotional pain in there. He says that it's all connected to self-love. And that's something that he says it takes a lot of courage and it takes some time to work through. This is moving, but and he says that it's not moving fast enough for you. It could move a little bit faster, but he says, what's that?
It makes so much sense. It makes so much sense because it leads to the next thing I was going to ask, because I am totally mentally and physically drained, and Erik, I was like, what do I need? Like, you know, I know that physically I'm not healthy. I know that, you know, mentally I'm not healthy. Which route do I take? Which energy work do I need?
Well, it's amazing, Sandy, how much just releasing trapped emotions can take care of a lot of physical illness.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to be real careful about over ordering. I mean, to me, I think we need to just start out with that, and maybe the next step would be to do the boost in self-love. But I wouldn't order a bunch of other stuff like increased physical and mental energy and all that stuff, because so many times clearing, reconnecting lost soul fragments, clearing out the old karma, and cutting ancestral DNA, releasing trapped emotions, so much of the time that takes care of so much and even everything. So you have to be careful not to just go crazy and order all sorts of scalar services unnecessarily. I'm telling you, I want to guide you through that. I need you to just get the tune. It's very inexpensive, and I just want you to be patient with that. Give it 5 or 6 weeks, and then we'll reconvene on the radio show or via email and see what the next step is. What do you think, Erik? Is that reasonable?
Yeah, he says that would be good. He says that, Sandy, you're a healer. You're a and so that's a lot of this stuff. Why it is heavy. Yes, and he's also drawing me to your eyes. I don't know if you're having problems with your eyes. To your eyes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
what's going on?
I just made an eye appointment, and because my friggin' eyes are burning every morning when I wake up, and I have headaches, and I'm. Erik, you're good.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Oh my
goodness, this is all connected.
Wow.
So,
Can I ask a small little question? I am so tired of being alone. It's 2/2/2/2/2 day. I lost my husband, right, in 2016.
Yeah.
Like, is that it for me? Am I going to meet somebody?
Yeah.
Erik says the fact that you've asked this question already says that that's not it for you. You know, because you've got that desire with it. So he says, part of the self-love is allowing yourself to be open to let somebody else in. So that's what this will all do for you.
Yeah, so that's all part of it.
It's all part of it.
Now, and also when we open up the good portals, you get, abundance flows, not just financial abundance, but also the abundance of love and physical health and all that stuff. So that could actually help too. The first step, the tune-up thing. All right, Sandy.
Right.
We'll get you through this, girl. Okay?
Yeah, we will.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Love you all.
You're welcome. Love you.
Yes, sir. Erik, help her.
He's got it, Mama. He's got it.
I know. I love you for that. Okay. All right. So let's see here. We have somebody from wait, hang on. Don't want to get lost. 757 area code. Hi there. How you doing?
Hello, good evening. Thank you for taking my call. This is Henry from Virginia Beach. My love and appreciation to you. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Erik, for completing the self-love boost for me and my family. I feel the need, to listen to this program today, and I think it's on purpose. Thank you, Erik. I think that was on purpose. Erik, thank you about this day, about restarting, resetting the relationship. My family relationship is very important for me. And Erik, is there any suggestions how to reset my relationship with my wife, with my son, with my family? And what do you see in the future for me and my wife? Any probabilities? And what steps and actions I should take, in order to make our relationship stronger and make it better and start the next better level. Thank you.
So what Erik is just saying is he says there's some forgiveness that's happening right now, and I'm not sure. It was cutting out a little bit, so I couldn't hear clearly what you were asking. I got some bits and pieces of it, but he's talking about there's forgiveness in your relationship. your partnership, he says, have courage through this time. Try to see the lighter side in life, the light in the relationship. There's also some acceptance as well. So what have you been separated?
No, not. But the talks about it is on the air. My wife is talking about this all the time, and my goal is to make our relationship stronger.
She's got some forgiveness. What Erik is saying is, and he said, some of this has to do with herself. I'm not sure what's taken place in the relationship between the two of you. He says that there's some forgiveness because he keeps saying to have courage and to accept how she feels, to allow her to have how she feels. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Well, she's we have 10 years together, and during this time, I did some mistakes in our relationship, and I want to get everything back and to restart the relationship and to make it right.
Okay. So he says, first of all, he goes, for you, have acceptance that happen. Accept that
what?
There's some of that within. Accept that things do happen in relationships. Because he says that that's something that is energetically holding on to the both of you. And so he says, and accept her feelings on that. To allow her to be able to release it is to acknowledge it in her. To be able to acknowledge it and to be able to talk about it and accept your part in things. Even though it happened a long time ago, he says that it's something that still sits within her. And it's kind of built up within her.
Erik, is there some... well, first of all, is she receptive to this kind of stuff, Erik stuff, or not?
Well,
not really. He said.
Because I was thinking it would be cool to have you both have some sort of session with Michelle and Erik and whatever to talk about it, but that's not going to happen then. Okay.
No, he says communication. Listen to her. Let her speak. Communication. He's suggesting some sort of counseling for the two of you. So if she's not into spiritual counseling and wouldn't come to me to have counseling, then the two of you, if you can set up some sort of, because he says the communication is what you want to build, because you want to build a new friendship. And he says, and that's exactly what tonight is all about, what we talked about. And he says, so go over that reset and what we talked about so that you can start to put those intentions and to create new memories with her in things that she enjoys, in things that she wants to do. Start to blend your interest with hers. And he says, because you're creating a new foundation. When you have a reset, he says that really is being in today and not being in yesterday, because if you stay in today, it's going to help her do the same.
That's awesome. All right, well, thank you for calling.
What is the probability? Do you like 4 hours to stay together? Like, what do you see for us in the future? Is that like probability to get together, to get back together?
Well, he's not really giving like a percentage. He's just saying that this is something that, to have courage, that you have to work out, that it is a chance. Like he's saying, it's not, all hope is not lost, and that's why you're listening tonight.
Good.
Yeah.
You were probably nudged here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for calling.
Yes. Thank you.
Love is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have somebody from the 630, Erica. Hi there, how you doing?
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
It's an honor. Thank you for calling.
I love your show, and of course I love Erik, and it's just been really interesting, everything that you've been saying, like about 02/22/22. And do you know that today is Tuesday? So that's another.
I know. Yes. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's so cool.
That's crazy. Erik says it's a little humor by the universe. Little universal humor.
so true.
Yeah.
So the Great Reset, I totally believe this is going on. I've been, and then I read about the Pluto return, and I looked up my sign, and it all makes so much sense. So like the big deal for me, like in the past couple of years, was to move, and I did. And now I feel like we're always working on something. Now I'm working on my income, and I've had my own business, and of course today it picks up, and I have 3 interviews this week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Good
awesome.
For you, girl.
Thank you. So in a perfect world, I get to do both jobs, right? I get to keep my business and work for myself, but I also get to pick up some extra work on the side, because I don't have enough work with my business to really sustain me, and just
not yet.
I mean, not yet. That's the thing. Like,
that's right.
I just feel like I'm in a pickle with that. The one thing you did say that really resonated with me earlier was when you were talking about the growth. And I know what it's like when people are isolated in a situation. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but I took that time and I went back over like my business and from start to finish and was like, what could I fix? What could I do? And it started growing, but I get afraid like it's not going to sustain me. I don't know. What do you then I start feeling crazy in my head, and I'm like, I don't know.
We all sit there.
And that's right. We're human, so we can overthink things really easily.
No, that's
it doesn't take much. It for sure. He says persevere. Keep doing what you're doing. He says consistency in doing what you're doing, because it's going to keep growing. Things are going to keep growing and keep going in the right direction for you. He says, remember, he goes, I want you to know, he says, you're very intuitive. You're very intuitive, and you're very in tune with the universe. So there are things that come to you and things that you think about that almost seem like, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's too crazy. That couldn't be. This couldn't be happening. Or that couldn't be possible. He says he wants you to know that comes to you because it is what's happening. So he says, don't doubt yourself. He goes, take this time right now and say to yourself, everything that comes into me intuitively, when it feels good, when it's something positive, when I think of these possibilities, don't think of them as imaginary possibilities that's floating in the ethers. He says there's nothing that floats in imagination that is not real. Because imagination is a center that we use to bring things into reality. It's not a false thing. He says when we are creating something out of nothing and pushing it, that's a difference of the imagination. But when we daydream and things come into us, that's because they are in our auric field and they're there to pull into creation. And it's up to us to be able to latch on to that and put that to our reality, to put belief to that, put trust to it. So he says that's all you need to do, and keep persevering, because he says there's a lot of good things coming for you.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right,
thank you so much.
You bet. I'm going to try to take another call here. 985 area code. Hi there. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello. What's up?
Hello.
Hi. Who are we talking to?
Hi. I'm John from Morgan City, Louisiana.
Morgan City.
Hi, John.
I'm a neighbor, just about. Hi, John.
We're usually the ones always the hurricanes are going to hit first, but then they end up turning.
I know. What is it? Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. Yep.
I have a question. Well, what does Erik have to say? Like, what advice he could give for my marriage?
What does he have to say about your marriage?
Advice for the marriage.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
You're having a hard time right now because Erik says that there's some judgment, blame, And he's repeating saying, mistakes happen, things happen. He goes, they're meant to be opportunities to learn. He's talking about a renewal of commitment.
Like a vow?
Okay.
A remarriage?
Well, I don't know. Are you in a separation right now?
No, I find sometimes we have a little distance. I think my husband, sometimes he deals with a lot of stress, and I understand he kind of gets disconnected,
Yeah.
And I do as well sometimes,
Is that because he's in a lot of stress?
Well, it's just he's with work, and we have kids and dogs, and he's in a band, and I sell real estate, and it's just we always have something going on.
Don, you guys are busy.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
He says he's just saying that he's bringing forward the energies, and he says, when you have a lot going on, and he says, and sometimes things don't always get talked about, and so there can come up some judgment, there can come up some blame, and he says that I don't know how you're feeling, because he says that a sense of making a mistake or not meeting expectations in some way, because he says that there's things that are going back and forth between the two of you, and he says there is time for a new commitment. And I'm going to say it again because Eric's like, here we are at a reset, and this is time to reset, new commitment between the two of you, because he shows that there is separation in your energy, but separation in your energy doesn't mean you're separating. It just means it's kind of on a different wavelength, and that's where we can get into disagreements and kind of like bickering or blaming each other for things. And he says, so resetting, and he says, and the same thing he just said to the last caller, the caller before, listen to each other. And he says, and listen without distraction. Hard to do when you have kids and you have dogs and everything else, but try to.
But I will share this with you on a personal level. I've been married for a long time, and we've had ups and downs, let me tell you. But having 5 kids and so many animals made it very difficult. So I decided, decades ago, we're going to have date night, man. And it's like death and dismemberment can get in the way, but that's it. And it really helped. Of course, at first it's like me giving the State of the Union here, Bernice, everything you're doing wrong. But, that's a girl.
Yeah.
But then it got to be where we got to be such good friends, and we started just talking and living it so non-judgmental and just sharing our thoughts. And, it's a great way to dismiss to clear up misconceptions, etc. But what do you think about that, Eric? Or if not that, some practical advice.
He says for sure, because he's just saying to you, John, he's committed to you. He loves you.
Oh.
And you love him too. So he says this is really about being able to come back together and recommit on the things that brought you together in the first place, because there's a solid foundation there between the two of you.
Good. Wednesday night is my date night, but if you pick a date night. Ours is always Wednesday, but you can pick whatever you want. But I really recommend it. It really has helped us. Anyway, we got to close the show. I'm so sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, good. But keep it open and non-judgmental and free. All right. Thank you, guys. You guys check out Michelle Gray at thehealing-art.com and channelingerik.com, the YouTube channel and the blog, and atlantaskater.com and the Atlanta Skater blog. And also just have a good week. I love you guys.
Yes.
Love you, Erik.
Love you.
Love you, Michelle.
Eric says, love you, Lisa. Love you, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.